but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Hello and welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave.
That's his name, and Mecky. That's my name. On WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio, where it's more than just radio. So jump in the chat room if you can. We're there. We're there. It's awesome. It's a new thing. It's a whole new thing. This is show number 385. 580 and 300. 385, good lord. And we're going to talk about the above versus the below. I'll elaborate in a second.
Part 3.
It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. If you missed Solaris' show, shame on you. I caught the tail end. Ha ha. Yes, it was music of the Plants, and Renee Colston was the guest.
Yes.
And from the last 10 minutes, it was an awesome show. I'm sure the preceding couple hours were awesome as well. And as always, I implore you to listen to Solaris, published author, video documentary as well. She's got like a film. She's got her own own network of I guess, interest and focus as well. So look her up on the net, see if you can listen to her. If you haven't listened to her, if you've missed her, she's just on before us, go to the archives, right? So whenever you miss her show, our show, you can go to the archives. It only costs $5 a month. Just that's a cup of coffee, not even with a donut anymore, I don't think, in Australia. And you get access to the Freedom Slips archives, right? You can check out her shows, all the shows, our shows, any show you want on the archives for $5 a month. Come on, that's a bargain. That's a bargain in anyone's language, all right? If you want content, because it's all about content these days, do that. Now, before we get serious here, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For me, that is the Daruk people, and for Dave,
it's the Darkinjung.
Thank you. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And recently I heard a term they're using, emerging. So that's sort of future is the same, emerging, the leaders, elders of the nations. Now, it has been an interesting week, and I do want to talk about Solaris just for a second. Yes, she's got an awesome network of influence, a sphere, you might say, out there. So look her up. It'll be worth your while. And I listened to our song, Dave, as we do, because I can now.
Yes, that's right.
So thank you very much, Hawk. I don't know what magic you did, but it certainly worked. You waved your magical wand, and that's right. And we could listen to it. But the song, which of course is a Weird Al Yankovic song, did speak about psychotronic, this, and it spoke about. Yeah, so that's something that Solaris has researched and had some personal experience with. So if you're interested in that particular aspect of the unknowable, maybe the strange, the mysterious, she's your person. It also said, one day I'll prove a big conspiracy. Remember when it says in Weird Al Yankovic, the last thing he signs off sort of with is, one day I'll prove there's a big conspiracy.
That's right.
That's the last line of the song. So I just want to quickly say that we the burden of proof is no longer on us. Conspiracies are a thing. I'm not saying that all the conspiracy theories out there, warrant attention or are true, but conspiracies themselves happen, right? It's the thing. When they burned down the Reichstag in Germany and blamed it on the communists, there was a Nazi conspiracy to get Hitler the ultimate power, I guess. Because he called out the emergency laws, the Notstandsgesetze, when that happened, or the sinking of the Lusitania, or even the attack on Pearl Harbor. Even though you'll find people saying, "No, that's all BS, Mackie. What are you talking about?" Mind control in Montauk, that's a thing. You don't think it's a thing? These documents were released. Oh, but now we've stopped doing that, you see. It's okay.
But it was.
No,
It
we
means
did
it's
that.
still a thing.
We did
That's
it.
right. We did it. Yeah.
Right?
Well, they did it.
But not anymore. It's like, I know people that are vegetarian for 3 days of the week. You have a balanced diet. If you eat meat at any point during the week, you're not a vegetarian. No, you don't understand, Mickey. I'm 75% vegetarian. I said, okay.
Which
Sure,
part of you is vegetarian? Mackie, I wanted to bring something out here because you said the word conspiracy, and you're right. Weird Al does talk about it, and it is his take-home message part of that song. I was watching recently, and I think I flicked you a link, Mackie, and if I didn't, did a rouse on me for it, I'd be remiss if I didn't. And that was that 912, right, was a conspiracy. And it's a conspiracy. Yep. It's a conspiracy anyway on either side of the coin. So whether it's Al-Qaeda as a conspiracy, correct, or it's the alternative to that, it's still a conspiracy. And it isn't wrong to believe in a growing conspiracy or a conspiracy which is coming of age or coming about, or it's newly discovered. It's not wrong to think about a conspiracy or believe in it because, as most people have found recently, that most of them are true. Not all of them. Some have a lot of evidence that weighs in towards their direction. Doesn't mean it's true yet. And everyone talks about the moon. I'm going to hand it back to you in just one more second. And that is, don't be afraid to look into them. And they've found, Mackie, that the people who are more interested in solving a conspiracy, getting to know it and understanding it and researching it to solve it, are the more intelligent of the people on this planet who are awake and aren't just mindless drones. One of the drones.
That's Sector 7-3.
That's it.
No, but the Sector 7G, Rob. It's only if you organ bags from Sector 7G. But look, it's a thing though. How can I put this best? We've spoken about the splinter in the mind before. Something that doesn't feel right.
That's all Dave. Like a Mandela show number effect, 1, Mickey. We mentioned that.
Yeah, exactly right. And why we're doing this? That's why we're doing it. Because there is something going on, and there is no interest from any of the authorities to shine a light at all, for various reasons. To keep us ignorant, to sell us the story. I mean, think about it this way: when did we all agree that being born, going to school, going to work, retiring, and dying is life? When did we all sign up for that? I mean, life was different before. There were different ways of living. Well, but like if you had been born into a more primitive, in quotation marks society, your life would be very different. You would be probably having, living a richer life, a fuller life, closer to nature potentially. Is it more brutal and harsher? Possibly, but it doesn't have to be. But when did we sign up on the paper and said, hey, we're going to be a cog in the system. We're going to, make this huge machinery work and have the few live the life that we all want, right? It is because this only works. This system we're in, and the people at the top can only be at the top if everybody else agrees not to be on the top. If we all agree that some people should get paid $10 million, right? There should be CEOs, and there should be bankers, and they should get all these big checks and these fat bonuses, right? I'm talking about millions of dollars, right? Then that's on us because that seems to be okay, right? Now you can argue that the
lifestyle.
Well, it is completely. Now you can argue that the system is geared toward maintaining that. You're right. It is. The legal system, the police force, all of those, even the military, all of these institutions and systems are put in place, or have been put in place, to keep this particular racket going. The government, as we're calling it, right? The democratic, I don't care if it's communist, the democratic, anarchist.
It's still a racket.
It's all a racket. Yeah. As long as somebody's on top, okay, and this is the same, that's why communism failed, because people tried to implement it. Okay, that's the problem, yeah. Mm-hmm. People are the problem. So, and this is really the overarching consideration here. We're living in a system of things, not of our own making, but we're told this is what it is. Whoever said, now I've said this in many shows, and I haven't said it for a long time, but I'm going to say it again. So you're going to buy a house in Australia. I'm talking about Sydney now specifically, which is, it's going to cost you $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. And the Aussie dollar is close enough to the American dollar for that to be, almost the same thing. But $1 million, okay? Let's say you're 20 years old, 25. You finished school, you finished university, you finished your apprenticeship, you have a trade, and you want to buy a house because you start a family, you get married, you want to have kids when you're young. It's all good, right? How could you ever afford $1 million mortgage? Mm-hmm. And forget about that. How would you ever save up a 20% deposit? You have to save up a 20% deposit in order to avoid a whole bunch of extra fees and taxes.
$200,000 with $6,000 a month.
Yeah. Payment. Now think about that for a second. Right? That's a lot of cash to be had, but we seem to be that's okay. That's the right way to live. So like Europe, we're turning into a nation of renters. Right? In Germany, renting was the norm. Like I reckon probably 80-85% of the population rents over there. But the point here is that if you were an Amish person living in Amish country, in I think it's Pennsylvania, or somewhere there in the United States, there's Amish country. Then you would get your friends together for a barn raising.
That's right.
Over the weekend, you all get together and you lumber the wood, and you do what you need to do, and you all build the barn together, you build a house together, because that's what you do. You get all your buddies, the whole community comes together, so this is like a big thing, everybody eats together, and they all help you build your house. Why? Because it's your community. It's your extended family. Whoever is in charge here of us in the industrialized world has worked very hard to alienate us from our families. Right, emancipation of children when they're very young is a common thing. Emancipation meaning, well, they can now move out and be on their own when they're like 14, 15, 16. Okay?
What do we do with our elders, Mickey?
Oh,
do we respect them? Do we respect them and keep them at, in hugs distance?
No, the further away the better. And in fact, if we never see them again after they've become maybe ill or hard to care for, the better. Right? There's this beautiful line on a TV show I once watched. I think it was called Eden Gardens. We care, so you don't have to.
That's right.
That's the world we're living in, and we're accepting it. The world was very different, and I lived differently. Just to let you, my grandparents. My grandfather died at home. My grandmother in hospital, but that was, I believe, she was done away by the hospital authorities. There are other cases there, but this is decades ago. I can't prove it. But my grandfather died at home. My mom is living at home. My father was at home. We're all at home. I could not bring myself to put anyone into a home, like a care home. I couldn't do it. And my brother is bearing a lot of the brunt. Not brunt, but he's taken it upon himself to stay with my mom, and make sure that she can live at home as well. And not that she needs the help, but it certainly is good for company.
Yeah, so we had my grandmother, who was the sole survivor of that generation, living with us when I grew up, and I really had a great time learning so much from my grandmother when my parents weren't there. I learnt more from her than I did from my parents directly.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though.
And we don't support this anymore. That's not a supportive model. No.
But we should, though.
Yeah, we should.
I went to Malaysia a little while ago, and we looked at some of the traditional living spaces, and it's pretty much anywhere within Southeast Asia or the Pacific even. There's sort of long house, sort of like a long house, sort of, right? Well, and an extended family would live in there. Right? Yeah. The extended, the house would be like probably 50, 60 meters long and maybe 5, 6, 7 meters deep, a couple of levels as well. But the entire family, cousins, brothers, sisters, grandfathers, and so on, they all live in that same space. So you really are raised by a village. The child is raised by a village because that's what it takes. to form a strong community. But we are so obsessed with individuality that we have completely forgotten about community. And the truth is this: if you're a prep out there, you know what I'm talking about. If you want to have a chance at all surviving, this doesn't have to be a catastrophe. Think about it this way. I'll give you an example that I just recently picked up. In New Zealand, what they now have are these traditional, I want to call them courts, right? And they deal specifically with juvenile offenders. So the New Zealand government has given power to the Maori clans, or the Maori elders, to sit in judgment, if you will, even though that's probably too harsh a word, of these young offenders, and help them along and see what needs to be done. So that's been happening for a while now, and I listened to this documentary recently, and it works like a charm, because these elders, they're not interested in locking these young people away, because that's the system. The system doesn't give a hoot really about rehabilitation, not really. I mean, they say they do, but not really. But because this child or this young adult is part of the Maori community, right? Belongs to or he or she is one of us. Let's see what we can do, and they take a personal interest. So the elders make sure this young kid doesn't go off the rails. They mentor this kid. They guide this child, for want of a better word. And that's how it should work. If you sit in judgment over someone you don't know, you don't really care about that person. Now, I'm not saying that everybody, should be treated with kid gloves. Obviously not. I mean, there's some horrendous people out there. But the truth is, we're doing it all wrong. We're doing it all wrong, and we're not getting any better. In fact, it's getting worse. It is getting worse. Our world is getting worse. And soon enough, we will need community. Dave, there's a couple of stories that you pinged us. I mean, if it's astounding. Do you want to talk about the Greenland stuff?
Yeah, I do. I just want to add to your point there. Because we no longer support the multi-generational community in a house, as a structure. One of those things, and Meki, you're absolutely right. We trust in our system that alienates people from each other, and that it's named, just like in science, Meki, they name it. Oh, it's a juvenile detention centre. Right? That's what there is. And there's one just not far from me, and the kids had some issue with it recently. And I know some people in the justice system, well, with the guards within those walls. And they said, that this one guy, he'll never be able to see again, or he's now, a vegetable, because the children hit him with a metal pole so hard and bludgeoned him almost to death, but he just survived. One of those things is, Meki, we named it a juvenile justice system with detention centres, and we're all similarly guilty, or not guilty, but more learned that it should do something. We're taught that should fix people by putting them in detention, rather than mentoring them away from the bad experiences. Because if you're a culmination of all of your experiences, and you could slot it up into out of 100%, like a pie chart, hugs from mum, hugs from dad, grandmother discussions, you know what I'm saying. Time spent with people that maybe shouldn't be mentoring you, right? So the negative influences. If that pie starts to grow too big, it becomes a significant part of your life. And it's very difficult to walk away from that. And the mentoring, I think, changes the percentage of those things and makes them count towards your person, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's all I can say on that. One of the things I was learning this week was that you know how we've had all those crazy temperatures in the northern hemisphere, Meki. My goodness, 42 degrees in France, right?
Oh, that's nuts. That's nuts.
And the lady died just being in the backyard.
Yeah.
She went to sleep, never woke up again. She died. And she died of heat-related illness, like heat stroke. But because she was asleep during it, she didn't experience it, and she died, right? I've been blue in the face telling people in Australia, because they say, oh, well, tell me when it's 46 degrees. That's what we get. No, he said, this is people who don't have any way of being able to deal with it. In France, what they did, or France, that's what they put chlorinated. They chlorinated all of their fountains to make it easy so people won't get sick. In Rome, they didn't, and they prevented people from using their, fountains to cool down, which is pretty terrible. But one of the things is, what's the ongoing effect, and what is going to be a long-term negative outcome from this? And I moved my focus to Greenland. And in the month of July only in July, no other month, just this July, which hasn't even finished yet, 64 million Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water has melted into the ocean. 64 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. That's surface melt only. That's a lot of water. But it is a lot of water, and I agree, but don't sweat it. And why should we not sweat it? Because 2.9 million cubic kilometers of ice remains. Okay, well that's pretty good. That's heaps. It sounds like heaps. It's not. So it's only 3,000 kilometers. It's like one massive ice cube is sitting on top of Greenland, and it hasn't ever been in the ocean. And it's 2.9 million square kilometers. That's a lot of water. And the problem is, Mekki, remember how we've been talking about, 2090 or 2100, all these bad things, all the catastrophes are going to happen. Well, they're saying now that's getting pulled closer and closer to us at a quickening rate, because the calculations they made to get to 2090 are now stripped. Who knew? No one calculated that in Germany it's going to get to 40 degrees, right? But now that it has, we're getting negative impact. Go ahead.
No, sorry. To be clear, since before we started the show, we've been saying this, and the reason we've been saying this because we've got limited modeling capabilities, and what we didn't take into consideration, and what Dave and I have been saying for years, is that you must take into consideration the domino effect. You must take into consideration the knock-on effect,
compound interest
of systems like the melting. The biggest surprise to many was the tundra, right? The permafrost.
It's on fire.
Another big surprise. It is. Yeah, exactly. Another big surprise, as Dave has just outlined, was Greenland. We should not be surprised. As you expose, so what does white do? White reflects all light. Reflects it all, including, so that's also a heat reflector, if you will. Okay, all frequencies are reflected by white. Black absorbs all frequencies, right? All of them. That's what it does. So you got a white surface, you will have a cooler environment. You have a black surface, you will have a hotter environment. So as more and more white is lost, when we expose more and more dark or black, it gets hotter. It is just, that's the nature of the beast, right? And I don't care what people are saying and go, it can't be that bad, surely, blah, blah. Yes, it can. I'm not saying human beings aren't responsible. I'm not that guy. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't actually care at this point, because even if we are responsible, it's too late to do anything about it, unless we make some massive changes now. But we have to focus on now how to deal with the aftermath. Forget about stopping it. Get ready.
Because that train left the station.
Sorry?
That train left the station.
It left the station. It's good. There it is. So there's a Doppler effect on it. My point is that you need to, right? You got that, right?
Yeah.
Good man. Yeah. You need to be able to do something and help the people that will be affected. The Pacific Island nation will sink. It'll happen. The coastlines will change. It'll happen. You want to build a dam or a weir? Do it. Do what the Dutch do. Do what the Singaporeans do. Reclaimed land. They know all about it, right? They're putting things together now to deal with higher water levels.
Wow.
I mean, the Dutch have to. They got no choice, because most of the Netherlands is underwater.
It's below sea level. That's correct.
It is.
And those windmills aren't for grinding flour. They're for pumps to pump the water. Mekki, the thing that I didn't get to mention yet is, well, what would the outcome be if our 3,000 or 2.9 million cubic kilometers of ice melted. Well, the outcome is a 7-meter sea level rise.
Yeah.
7 meters. Now, at 2 meters in Australia, pretty much you lose infrastructure like water treatment, sewage treatment, that's fresh water. You lose your transport and your airport, your main airport, especially in Sydney, that's 2 meters above sea level. Planes aren't going to land in an intertidal zone, right? That's just never going to happen. You might be okay if you're in Arizona, right? And you go, oh, well, who cares? Well, food production for you is going to be a great loss. And you have a look to see what happens to Texas. Most of Texas is lost. And Florida's gone. The thing about 7-meter sea level rise is all those flat places that you've seen when you've driven along, they will become intertidal zones, or themselves submerged by 1 or 2 meters. And I know
you want to have...
in this area where I live, there's plenty of that, and it's all used for farming because it was nice and flat, so we use it for farming.
Yeah.
The big problem is then you end up, and this is Mekki and I talk about this all the time, and that is climate refugees. If you can't live somewhere, if you can't grow food and you can't get food, good luck. There's nothing going to allow you to sustainably live where you live if you can't have the resources you need to live, right? You're going to move on. And you think it's, it's not so bad where you live, but think about all the people it isn't good for. They're going to come and want to live where you live.
I'm about 38 meters above sea level. Woohoo!
I'm 56.
And that goes up to 115.
Yeah,
in
on the top of the hill, right? That's right.
Yeah, that's correct. So, look,
the fishing's going to get better. I'll tell you that.
I know, right? I might have beachfront property, but there's also a huge freshwater reservoir right behind my house over the hill.
Yeah,
that supplies a large part of Sydney. But the point here is that we're all still arguing how to stop the train that is running us down at 500 kilometers an hour and is about 10 meters away. How can we stop that train? Let's really think here. Come on, we'll figure it out. We all just, we all pull together, and the big industry says, you know what? No, as they're shoveling coal into the train engine. We can't help you. We're making good money off this train, so shut up. And then, the little households, they're jumping off the train and, they're trying to do their own thing and become energy efficient. Not that it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, of course, it is important that we all try to do something. Don't get me wrong, right? I mean, you want to do something just because we still have to live in the world after the sea levels rise, okay? We don't want to get any worse. So let's stop doing all the insane stuff we're doing and let's do something else.
Yeah, the more self-sufficient you can become now, you'll be the ones who make it past it. It's like the Great Flood, Mekki. It's about it's about being able to survive the actual flood and into the next period.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Mm.
That's really the point. And you have to understand, it's an existential question now, right? It'll happen. The sea levels will rise.
They're rising.
They're right. It's hot. It is hot. 42, Dave. 42 degrees in Europe. I grew up in Europe. I lived there for 20 years. I was born in 69. I left in 88, 89, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I lived there for 20 years. I know what the weather was like then. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like this.
It wasn't.
Okay?
Yeah. We've certainly tipped the balance, and the weather is cascading out of control. Places that never had this kind of weather are having it now. And, argue all you like about that it's happened before. I don't care whether it's happened before. It's happening now. And we're living in places now which won't be inhabitable. That's as simple as that. We saw the postcard, the beautiful postcard of that place we live in, and thought it was going to stay the same. It doesn't. Yes, it's changing. Not going to argue the cause because I don't really care. It's too late. But you know what, Mekki? At the moment it's too late for everybody because of the sea level rise.
Yeah.
Everything changes anyway.
Yeah.
We're no longer able to consistently perform the things we're doing now. What you need to do is be able to survive through it. So it just astounds me. It really does. I had conversations with some friends last night about this, and they really didn't see it. So the media is
really?
Yeah,
really?
They did not see it. I had to describe the Greenland thing to them for them to understand that there's an issue. Because it's a little bit worse maybe than we thought. But they're not seeing this. The media, the grand media that runs everything, isn't. They're just saying life is normal.
Okay.
You when have you seen crisis in Greenland? You haven't seen that story, right? It should be front page of the news. Meki, we have a Japanese student living with us for 2 weeks as part of a sister city exchange. The city where I live is Gosford, and it's Etowonga city in Japan. And we've exchanged some students, and we've got one she's polite and kind and gracious and courteous and amazing, right? I wish my children were a little, maybe just 5% of this girl. The language barrier would be a bit of an issue, but if they were my children. But look, just extraordinary. And it reminded me something, Meki, of that challenge that I did, that Syrian refugee challenge. She doesn't eat very much. It's not because she doesn't like the food. She just doesn't eat like we eat. Like Westerners. No. Man, don't we eat too much?
There is a saying or an expression in Japanese. I don't know. I can't remember the Japanese expression, but it means 80% full.
Yeah, right.
And my wife's cousin is married now to a Japanese girl, and that she in the States, and she told us this. And she eats very little. I mean, she eats enough, but she says you should eat to 80% full, no more.
Not to, oh my God, please don't talk about food.
Right.
That's too far, right?
Yeah.
I've got to go and have a lie down now. I've eaten so much.
Right?
Yeah, that's a bit far.
Food coma.
And just because you bought the large meal, you know that there's a psychological condition named for the person who buys the large meal, despite being full, will continue to eat it because they bought it.
It's called fatty.
No, no. There's just like everything else, Meki. Even the person who chooses to eat healthy now in a world of insanity is now a psychological condition.
No, you're right. It's not a disorder,
right.
Not a condition.
It's a disorder. I'm sorry, it's a disorder. It's a disorder. Yeah, right.
So it's grief. Grief and wanting to eat healthy are both disorders, mental disorders, in case you're wondering. But your point is valid, Dave. And the thing is this. In America, especially, not just in America, but in America, especially when I go there, I've realized that the understanding of getting a good deal, right, is volume. Not quality necessarily, but volume. So it's the quantity of the food that you're getting. Went to a regular pub, I guess, in Hoboken, or like not a pub,
wow.
I guess, whatever it was, right? This is a little while ago. And beautiful, really nice. I had these potatoes in a pan, like my grandmother used to make them early. But my point is, the food that came, and this is just a regular, hangout of people that lived there. I couldn't finish it. I had no chance of finishing it. The only burger joint that in the States when I do go to a burger was Johnny Rocket. Johnny Rocket has got human-sized burgers, right? Like back in the 50s, with human-sized fries and human-sized drinks. And everywhere else you go, it seems to be that the more you get, the better value for money you think you're getting. You should only eat what satisfies you. You shouldn't, all you can eat buffets. It's insane. Really? Why do you want to do that? Oh, because the thing is this, with the all you can eat buffets, and it's really something Americans love, in Australia as well, of course. You just go and eat. Keep eating and more, because you load, the first plate is full, the second plate is full, and you have to go for a third or fourth plate because you want to get your money's worth. It's $20 all you can eat. I can eat more than that. Keep eating, right? I mean, it becomes a competition. It's like, and that, you're right, is a disorder. It's like this insane thing where I have to get my money's worth. What does
Marge,
that even mean, Dave?
Marge,
What does that mean? I have to get my money's worth.
Marge, I put it to you that you're under oath. Please answer the question. What did you do after the all-you-can-eat fish seafood restaurant closed? We drove around for 3 hours looking for another all-you-can-eat seafood
And
restaurant.
then Homer went fishing.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, it's a stamp. It's just rubber stamp society the way we see it today, right? It says it's
nuts.
okay. This is what we're doing.
So, but the thing is this: it wasn't always like this. If
No.
you look at the original McDonald's was the hamburger was the regular size, the cheeseburger was the regular size, like you get today,
Yeah.
and the fries that is today small fries, that was the fries.
That was the one in the
That was
paper
just
packet. Paper.
Yeah, the paper pack fries,
Yeah.
and the Coke that you got was in the small cup. That was
That's
a
right.
regular Coke. Then whatever is deemed or called
It
small
wasn't a
today,
gallon.
it was just the size. No, it wasn't 2 liters, right? It wasn't half a freaking.
It wasn't a
you know,
gallon of
quart.
Coke like
No, it
now,
wasn't
right?
half a gallon. Yeah, no, it's insane. So what has happened?
The McSweats
honestly-
happened.
The McSweats. Look, I don't know what happened, but something similar happened to the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire
absolutely.
only existed in its
Absolutely.
opulence because it could do so on the back of the rest of the world, or of the known world back then, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So they were able to live in opulence, and for Romans themselves actually didn't really didn't really work. They just lived off the riches that the conquerors brought back, and that's how they stayed in power, because it was a democracy? It was a republic, and people voted. So the politicians gave people money, and the more money you gave them, the more likely they were to vote for you. It was a really interesting system. So it wasn't a monarchy or anything like that. It was actually a republic. And today we've got something similar. People don't really want to work and feed me, and only because the rest of the world shoulders the first world. This is not the states alone, but the first world nations are living off the back of the 80% of the rest of the world. The sweatshops, the poverty, the starving children, the disease. That's on us.
And the deaths at work, and all because we want that thing cheaper, right?
Because we want that thing cheaper.
That's it.
That's right. What? We don't even need that thing, man.
No, it's
We
not
don't
even a
even-
necessity.
What thing? How many cars can you drive in? How many TV screens can you watch at the same time, right? How many pens do you need? I mean, or shoes, or anything for that matter. How much of anything does anyone need? The answer is as much as possible. No, it's not the answer. That's not the answer.
I'd
right?
at least want one of a few of those things, and I'd want it to last the rest of my life like it did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to
My
buy the same thing every 6 months because it's broken.
No, but that's the thing. When I buy something, I'll be honest with you, I try to buy the best thing I can. It doesn't
me
mean the
too.
most expensive, it's just the best thing, the thing that will last me the longest. I've got shoes I've had for 20 years, okay? I've still got jumpers I've had for 30 years even, right? So, do I never buy anything? No, of course I buy new things. But I don't throw things out every 6 months or anything like that. It doesn't happen. I think I told you last week that my kids went to St. Vincent's to donate some toys, and my daughter, I think for her it was like a revelatory experience, a revelation, because she saw other kids, with her toys, playing with them, and it made her feel happy, because my wife explained to her that, and she's only young, five years old, that this kid probably only has this one toy that her mom bought her in the shop. And, the kid that walked away with my daughter's toy that we donated was very, very happy. And my daughter, in turn, felt really good. And so we did another 4 or 5 runs with
That's
old
awesome.
toys. Yeah, look, yeah, it is. But it also goes to show just how much stuff we didn't buy most of it. We get it as presents, right?
That's
again,
right. Well,
and you just realize how much we have, and we have too much. I think, in many ways, we have too much. And I say it again, then I'll shut up. There is no excuse for billionaires to exist. I'm sorry. I don't care how hard you work. I don't care how smart you are. If you're a billionaire, there's something wrong with this world. We cannot afford billionaires on this planet. Millionaires, well, look, a few $1 million, why not, right? But a billionaire? How could you justify to have billions and billions of dollars when people, children, families are dying of disease or starving to death? every 5 seconds, apparently, a child starves. Or every 5 seconds. But by the time we finish our show, hundreds of children will have died because they didn't have clean water, they didn't have enough to eat, and yet there we have these billionaires buying themselves massive ocean-going yachts and helicopters and all kinds of things. This is not the world. This is not how it's meant to be. Yes, you work hard, you should be rewarded. You have a nice big house, a nice big car, the biggest TV you can buy. Yeah, of course you should have all these things. I'm not a communist, right? If you work hard, be rewarded. But as a billionaire, are you really a million times more valuable than any of your workers? Are you really a million times more valuable? Is Donald Trump, all right, a million times or 100 million times more valuable? Is Bill Gates? Are these human beings that are, that much better? Zuckerberg? Are they?
I'd say
no.
at least 10 million to 100 million times, because there's no way their staff are getting $1 million a year.
Well, no, that's true as well. But you get my point, right?
No, yeah, totally.
We're living. So if you think communism is bad, what we have now is complete insanity.
Mm-hmm.
We have the vast majority of the world's wealth concentrated, not at the 1%. Forget the 1%. It's the 1% of the 1% that own it all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what's going to kill our economy. It's going to kill our civilization.
They're vacuuming up all of the money that should be going somewhere else. If a billionaire paid their people with an extra zero on the end, look where the world would be, right? It'd be in a better place. Yeah.
But not only that, we could all have work. If we all worked together and had an equitable standard of living, like everybody had a good standard of living. Maybe some have it better because they work harder, and some have a bit less because they don't work as hard, or whatever it might be, right? People have luck, some don't have luck. But the point is, I cannot understand how we can allow billionaires to exist. A millionaire, okay. Look, at least we're still within human frameworks here, okay? You worked hard, you accumulated a few $1 million, $10 million, or $100 million even. But to get billions and billions of dollars, or the equivalent in wealth, that's insane. These politicians that siphoned off hundreds of billions of their countries, the Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, places like that. It happens, and I don't understand how we let it happen, because we worship at the altar of money, and we think money is the ultimate thing, and the ultimate expression, and the people that have it must therefore be the best people, right? If money is the best thing, then the people that have it must be the best people, right, Dave? Makes sense.
The logic's flawed.
Right? I don't know, man. I feel discouraged.
What I've been trying to do at the moment is look to see what's the current total of those people who are going to storm Area 51. Five. I don't know how many it says that are going to be doing it. I can't find the group because there's 3 groups, storm Area 51, and each one's different. But anyway, it doesn't say how many are actually going to do it. I'm trying to look for it. The last time I saw it was like 2.5 million people, and they can't really stop that many people trying to do it, right?
Yeah, you can.
You can with warthogs or A10s. You can.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying would the military use lethal force, because they would, and there's no problem with them doing it. Sorry, they don't have a problem with them doing it. The problem would be the rest of the people in the US having witnessed it, because it would have been 2.5 million people streaming it live, right?
Yeah.
Then how would they feel about their government doing it? I reckon that they don't want to cause a situation where this is now a new thing. They don't want to set a precedent to allow people to storm into secret military bases and allow it to happen. I struggle with this, because the people the quantity of people that have voluntarily decided to go against the government's rule and storm Area 51 just for their own curiosity, mind you, and not because they're militant people.
Yeah.
They just go, well, we're tired of the lies, right? There's more people that are willing to do this than took part in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's a lot of people. And that's a big issue. Yeah. And that's look what happened in Hong Kong, Mickey. The people spoke by protesting, and that the law was repealed. They repealed the law of being able to deport people back to China from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
That's a good bit of little democracy happening, right?
I think it's awesome. No, I agree.
If 2.5 million people decided to petition the US government and say, we'll storm, or you tell us the truth about the alien ships, right?
Yeah.
Instead, that's all I'm trying to say. I think that might be, you might all stay alive and get the information, or get some of it.
Yeah.
Because what happens if you go there and there's nothing because they moved it because you gave them 2 months to move it?
Yeah.
Just around the corner is 4. For instance. Phew, that was close.
But we're seeing, for the first time in a long time, we're seeing democracy in action. So this is a really interesting scenario, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Technology has both been a boon and a doom to some extent, right? And what I mean by this, yes, we are living in 1984. If you don't think we are, then you've been living under a rock. And good for you. But we are. And this is 1984. In fact, it's getting beyond 1984. It's getting to what the 1984 people would have had nightmares about, right? That's where we are now.
Yeah.
But by the same token, yes, there are hundreds of millions of cameras around the world, right? But they also capture amazing stuff. I mean, there's a show now called Strange Evidence. I don't know if you've seen it, Dave. That captures really weird stuff on these cameras. Like, we can't explain it. It makes no sense. Some of it is just nuts, right? But it's captured because there are enough cameras now to capture it. But not only that, it also made it somewhat safe for some people, right? But it also opens up the citizen reporter or citizen journalism doorways, right? Because you can now capture a story as it unfolds, and not just you, but thousands of you can capture it. And for, let's say, worst case scenario, 2.5 million people go and march on Area 50 or Groom Lake, the Groom Lake facility, right? Let's say that happens, and they open fire. There'll be 2.5 million live streams of that happening. Right? What would happen after that? I don't know. I mean, you just don't know. You just don't know. If the people in Tiananmen Square all had mobile phones, all of them, I wonder if Tiananmen Square would have happened the way it did. Okay, if all the GIs and all the Vietnamese Viet Cong had mobile phones in the Vietnam War, and capture all the atrocities, and all the, not just atrocity, I mean anything in a war is an atrocity, but all the things that went on in that war, and any war for that matter, if all of it was captured by the people that were in it, do we really think that we still have wars? If we all saw all the time live streaming?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
would
good
we?
point.
I don't know. So it's a double-edged sword. So we're getting close to true democracy, right? Meaning we all see everything, but we don't necessarily all understand everything. That's a different story.
As long as there's no public trial by Facebook, right?
Well, but that hey,
you've seen that episode. I know.
Yes, I have. I have. But
frightening.
That's on the cards. No, it's frightening. But we all in China they've introduced it's called social credit.
That's right.
Everybody has social credit, and if people like you or whatever, or you do a good thing for the community, then your credit rating, let's call it, goes up. If you do something bad or people don't like you, your credit rating goes down, up to the point where in China people were no longer allowed to travel because their social score was so low. Like what I'm saying here is technology in itself is completely neutral, right? What we do with it is what counts, right? It's how it's used that makes the difference. Because the technology exists to do really, really good stuff and really horrific stuff, Dave.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only problem is the use of it. And do you know what? if we don't get there and it doesn't happen, I'll be a monkey's uncle.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. And I was telling some people today that posthumously, which means after the event, our governments are collecting so much data that we might be found guilty of things like traffic offences because of your tracking of your phone while you were committing the offence, for instance, driving a motor vehicle over the speed limit. That could happen because they're collecting data on your whereabouts, and they can do calculations. I know Google Earth shows me where I've been on every day that I've had my phone. Wow. Right? So, look, I wouldn't put it past any of the agencies to be able to start using this information to collect revenue. Why not? Not saying it's right, but it's saying why not? If it's there, if they can prove there's no discrepancy. It's just an extraordinary time. Like, death by Facebook, where you can be unliked sufficient enough to cause yourself your own mental disorder. That's one way. That can be bad. If you post something, no one likes it. Catastrophic times, right? In your world. I just hope that we can. There's the music. There's the music.
Beautiful, beautiful.
See you after the short break. You're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com on the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for only $5.95 a month. That's like a triple shot coffee here. That's not very much money. Just subscribe, set it up, make it happen, and you'll be supporting the station. And you don't just get to listen to our shows or Solaris' shows, for instance. You can listen to all the hosts' shows, and you can download them as an MP3 so you can listen to them when you feel it's time. I mean,
that's right.
There's not any viewing of anything that I do now in any medium where I don't have it when I need it. I don't watch anything live anymore, unless it's the news and it's a current event, going. And that's usually through maybe RT on YouTube. Yeah, but I don't watch everything else. It's all pre-recorded. Everything I watch now, like the SpaceX rocket, for instance. I saw it just a few minutes after I caught the live feed, but it was just after it started. So in fact, I'm watching. Cool. I'm watching a post. It's a post-event thing, right? You can do the same thing.
Like Hawk says, we're already here.
We are already here.
No matter where you are in your journey, no matter where you think if you're lost or alone, we're already here. A good friend of the shows, he won't mind me mentioning his name, Paul, said that until he met me, he didn't realize that people. This was before the show. I met him 10 years ago, I think, or thereabouts. He said that he didn't realize that people were interested in the things that he was interested in. So we had a few good chin wags. So you're not alone out there. There are a few people that have similar interests, and even if you have different interests, you're all looking for the same answer. Okay, you're all looking for the same answer.
Wow, you've turned into not Neo, Morpheus.
Morpheus.
That was such a Morpheus right there.
Maybe as you get older, that's what happens. But the truth is. You have to feel the time is right for you to really take this in. I know in my life, I went through different stages of understanding. I went through different stages of need, spiritually, intellectually, and only at certain times in my life was I open to certain ideas. Mm-hmm. Right? When I was younger, I had no time for the metaphysical at all.
Same.
I go, what a load of baloney. The Kabbalah. Didn't want to hear about it. Tree of Life, not interested.
Chakras.
But then when you understand, right? Exactly. But then when you understand higher order mathematics and quantum physics, when you start understanding it, when you start understanding that you don't understand it, right? Then you realize that all of these things hang together, and the mythical and the mystical arts, are way ahead of anything else we are doing at the moment. You know, Buckminster Fuller, when he before he had this insight into this I guess a particle, he said he dreamt it. Crick and DNA, a similar story. They had these visions, and sometimes illicit substances were involved. Most of you might be astounded just how many prominent thinkers, scientists, visionaries did take drugs in order to come to their astounding breakthroughs. You'd be amazed just how many people did. You know, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, maybe. Iron Maiden made a song out of it. He took laudanum. Yeah, he took laudanum very frequently. Opium as well. It's astounding. Just and they now believe that the Oracle of Delphi was exposed to fumes, which in the long term are toxic, but in the short term help you with your vision quest. Now, don't let me start on the peyote mushrooms. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff out there that we have made illegal, and you have to always ask yourself why is that? Because I want one thing before we go into today's topic, Dave, and then I'll throw it to you, and we can start and say something else up to you. But one thing, back in 1880, I'm just picking a year here. 1880, you could walk into your apothecary, which was a chemist, and purchase a gallon of gasoline, 10 grams of cocaine, and some heroin.
And some mercury too, for that matter.
And some mercury, and off you go. Now, did they have a massive drug problem? No more than today. I mean, opium was a problem back then, and gin, believe it or not, gin was a big problem for the British Empire. But that's people being addicted to stuff. But there was no war on gin, no, not really, right? And people were treated like responsible adults that could be trusted with buying cocaine in a shop, and not be charged an arm and a leg for it. I mean, things have changed. We have become completely nanified. We are not allowed to make any decisions that concern us. But you know why? Because we're never taught to be responsible human beings.
That's true.
Dave showed me this video. Dave, remember you showed me the video? This is a black and white video of the 1950s schools in Australia, similar in America. Mm-hmm. Kids would ride to school on their bike and sling their either like a small caliber 22, right? Like a 22 right. or maybe BB gun, and leave that out in front where they hang their jackets. And after school, they would go and hunt rabbits or whatever. So they brought guns to school.
Yeah.
They brought rifles to school. Why? Because they were taught from an early age, like I was, to respect a gun and handle it carefully and understand what it is. Not coddled and babied and helicoptered like we are today.
Oh, helicopter.
There was one. Yeah, that's shocking. There's this meme on Facebook at the moment, this picture, and I've seen it pop up many different from many of my different contacts. It's essentially one of those playground toys, not toy. I guess it's not a jungle gym, but it was like a rotating kind of merry-go-round.
Yeah.
But it's not. But it's self-propelled, so the kids have to propel themselves on it. Right? No safety features. It's just literally it's a round platform on an axis with a couple of bars. That's what it is.
I remember those.
And right? And people used to fly off that and get grazes, and that'd be okay. Today, and this, I'm guilty of this. I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm guilty of this as well. If my kid went near a jungle gym, I'm there, ready to catch. I'm there, ready to catch my kid falling off the jungle gym if I have to. Now I'm doing the wrong thing, because you have to let children, you have to allow them to get the grazes. You have to allow them to have the experiences. You have to allow them to be away the whole day. When I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I was outside the entire day. My parents had no idea where I was. None.
And what was their phrase to you when you left?
Come back when the lights go on.
That's right.
The street lights. The street lights. In Germany, in summer, that meant 10 p.m. believe it or not, because the sun stays up longer. But look, so streetlights. If it's streetlights, you could still go play after dinner, but you had to be home for dinner, 5, 6 o'clock, whenever there was, and then you could, if you wanted to go out again. Because guess what? There was no TV for us when I grew up. In the 70s, there was no afternoon TV. There was a show, or there was an hour worth of children's television on a Saturday between 3 and 4 p.m.
Wow.
That was it. Sorry, but yeah, let's yeah. I'm sorry, we're just wrong. We're all doing it wrong.
and look, the jungle gyms and metal furniture in the and when I say furniture, I mean like exercise equipment that we had at my school. People would break them, bones and things, and have all sorts of injuries, but you survived because you knew what the beast was. You made judgments based on your experience, right? And if, like I said before, you are a culmination of every one of your experiences, and you get to make judgment calls based on your knowledge. And if you don't learn, and if you're cotton-wooled or mollycoddled, then you don't get to learn. And look, it's frightening from a helicopter parent perspective that you want to make sure that they're always doing the right thing, but it doesn't allow them to do the wrong thing and learn from it. Mekki, I just want one Socrates quote, and that's, to know is to know that you know nothing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You have to be willing to admit to yourself that you don't know anything. And that way you can learn. And that's the meaning of true knowledge. And I think that's a great segue. I'm going to grab that one.
I know.
What can we learn? And this is show number 385. And you're listening to Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mekki. And this is the show topic, is the surface versus the below, part 3.
Yes. And a quick recap. So what we're postulating here is that UFO sightings, USO sightings, right, unidentified submerged objects, may not necessarily be generated by extraterrestrials, right? I've always had a problem with the anthropomorphic nature of extraterrestrials. I always found it difficult to swallow. Not saying they don't exist, of course they exist, but if they do exist, they should be a lot more different to us, unless there's other events like seeding and so forth. But anyway, so this is about... Exactly, panspermia. And this is about the idea that there could be other civilizations living within the caverns of the Earth, living underwater, that have been co-inhabiting the planet with us for, forever, much further advanced than we are, and we are sort of seeing as the third world on the surface, right? That we are like the third world nations. If you look at it that way, a lot of things start making sense, right? Because the thing about it this way, if once we started developing nuclear power, and then I'm going to get into the text here, why would I care in Alpha Centauri or in Betelgeuse if someone on Earth is developing nuclear weapons? It would take until the end of time for those nuclear weapons to get there, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't care. Even if I was on Mars, right, which was the premise for the day the Earth stood still, even if I was a civilization on Mars, I wouldn't be too concerned if the Earth was developing nuclear weapons, because it would take so long to get there, and it should be fairly easily intercepted. If you've got space flight like the alien, or like Klaatu had in the Earth stood still, then it should be an easy thing for you to destroy those nuclear warheads mid-flight. But so why then? Why would any UFO any UFO inhabitant or passenger care about our nuclear weapons program? The answer, of course, is, well, my answer I'm offering you is that, well, they're actually here. They're on this planet with us. And they care because whatever we do to the surface could have effects to the underground and to the undersea civilizations that they built. So it makes a lot more sense for all these UFO activity around these nuclear test sites and so forth to be occurring if, in fact, the creatures, people within it, are of Earth origin. Makes very little sense that anybody from another solar system would be worried about our nuclear arms development. Now, we might think it's the bee's knees, right? Oh, look at us, we've got nuclear weapons.
Big
so
deal.
what?
That's right.
But really, I mean, who cares, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Well,
so this
Mekki, at one time we had a board with a nail in it.
But now we make bigger boats with bigger nails.
I knew you would do the Simpsons. So, because mine was Mo, right? Yeah. That's the thing. Whatever we currently have is what we believe to be the answer to all of our problems.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so far out of our depth. It's not even. We don't even understand the nature of the universe anymore. We had a pretty good handle on it during Newton's time. We thought, okay, the universe is a big, gigantic clock. Okay, I dig it. It's mechanistic in nature. I'm feeling good. Even Einstein. Okay, yeah, I sort of get it. Okay, so we have to think of time space as one thing, or rather space time, and when we get a lot of gravity, it sort of bends space time. I still get it. Yeah, no, okay, well, I'm maybe not completely, but I'm still with you. I understand. Quantum physics? Oh, really?
I'll lock in. Let me lock in spooky actions at a distance for 300.
Well, I'll raise you uncertainty principle for 2, Bob.
Yeah, and why does it change when we look at it? It completely baffled our scientists, as it still does today. But you know what, Mickey? You just name it, and you can put it on a shelf. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah, or you'll just call it probability, right? Oh, the probability of the location of the photon at any position. We know where it's probably going to be, right? But we don't know why, and we don't know how, and therefore we don't know, right? But we've named it something, so I'm just going to stand in front of the big name board, like a billboard with quantum decoherence on it, and go, I know, right? I'm going to be this poster boy for quantum decoherence. That'll be used in a grab for sure one day. That's really funny that we should claim to have that knowledge. Yeah. Like we know the rest of the universe. We don't. Maybe this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so we thought we'd put the show together because there's a lot of stuff going on with USOs. And right now, we started this last week, and we're going to continue with this. This is the underwater potential UFO underwater activities and underwater bases. There's some really interesting stories, some interesting sites, as you would expect, I guess, Dave, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the Ohio. I think the Baikal is probably something that you would like, so I'll give you Lake Baikal. But there was a Lake Erie, Cleveland, Ohio, the 2011 book Erie. It's a bit of a funny title. Tales of the Unexplained from Northwest Pennsylvania, by Robin Swope, examines and investigates numerous MUFON reports. Many of these reports speak of UFOs seen crashing into the water of Lake Erie. I think they're not crashing, I think they're diving, but that's just me. One particular report from 1988 alleged a strange craft landed on the lake when it was iced over. The landing was witnessed by Sheila and Henry Baker, who made a report to the local Coast Guard. As the mysterious craft landed, there were strange sounds heard coming from the ice, as well as a series of blue and red lights from the craft itself. There also appeared to be several strange triangular objects jettisoned from the ascending object. These triangles seem to move purposely around in all directions along the icy surface of the lake. Suddenly, the sounds on the ice stopped, and the craft and the mysterious triangles vanished, suggesting that they had indeed found their way below the ice and under the water. According to a report in 2007 that ran on News Channel 5 in Cleveland, the area had seen no less than 20 UFO sightings in only 2 years. There are a great many videos on YouTube that claim to show some of these UFOs over Cleveland. Local UFO researcher Richard Lee stated that the UFOs seem to take particular interest in any new building projects undertaken in the area. Why would they? Once a new project begins, according to Lee, there's usually a UFO sighting in the immediate vicinity not long after. Are they coming from their alleged base in Lake Erie? So, again, if somebody moved into my neighborhood, I'd like to know who it is, right? That's just human or creature nature, I guess, right? And if somebody built something near me, I want to make sure it's not some kind of chemical plant that pumps all kinds of waste into my immediate neighborhood, for example. But it doesn't make a lot of sense if I'm a solar system traveling interstellar traveler that only needs to rest here for a little while. none of these things make sense if we look at it from an extraterrestrial point of view. Anyway, that's my opinion. Dave?
Well, maybe they're town planners, very interested in our architecture. But look, if someone's done a knockdown rebuild in your street, you've gone to check it out. Yeah, you just do it. You can't help it. Your curiosity is beyond you, and you go and do that. I know I've done it. I know when I was a kid, before fences, safety fences, I used to climb through the structure and try to determine what every one of the rooms were. But, you know, that wasn't quite trespassing because there wasn't any way of stopping it, and I was too young. Okay, and plus I collected all the bent nails and took them home to my dad, who just seemed to love that. Any nail on the ground was fair game. And my dad taught me that. He would, come on, son, we're going to go and have a look at that new construction down the street. And he'd come home with a pocket full of bent nails. Lake Baikai? Baikai? A scene of...
Baikal, yes.
Oh, Baikal. All right. A scene of an underwater battle with aliens. The ancient lake in Siberia is said to be the deepest lake on the planet and has a brief history. Has a history, not a brief history. Brief doesn't even exist in that sentence. A history of UFO activity as well as alleged sightings of aliens under the water by Russian military divers. I've actually seen a documentary, the full-length documentary on this. Plus, it's the largest freshwater lake on the planet as well. It's the oldest lake on the planet as well. These sightings date back to the Soviet era, but since the end of the Cold War, the reports have come into the public domain. Many of the accounts tell of a huge mothership hovering over the expanse of water, and even humanoid beings in strange, shiny suits climbing down from these ships and into the water. Former Soviet naval officer and ufologist Vladimir Azaz claimed to have leaked top-secret files relating to an incident in 1982. He stated that military divers who were on standard training exercises in the area witnessed huge underwater craft that moved with a speed they had never seen before. Several days later, the story took an even more bizarre twist when divers witnessed several strange beings under the water. They wore shiny suits and what appeared to be a small oxygen-type mask. According to the alleged leaked documents, the unit was ordered to capture these strange creatures. When they attempted to do so, however, they were fought off with what appeared to be an advanced sonar wave weapon that ultimately killed 3 of the 7 divers. The remaining 4, now terrified and injured from their attempt to detain the strange crew, retreated and made their report to superiors. In 2009, photographs taken from aboard the International Space Station seemed to show 2 distinct shaped saucer anomalies in the region, fueling further speculation that an extraterrestrial presence was under Lake Baikal, and even the possibility that these saucers were the craft that had been witnessed nearly 3 decades earlier by the Soviet diving unit. They were meant to be in the description, Meki. There's no description of them here other than humanoids wearing shiny suits with oxygen masks. However, the documentary went further into saying that they were taller, maybe, possibly 9 to 10 feet tall, large beings with a skin unlike where it was exposed, unlike human skin. So they weren't just humans trying to protect something. They had a specific kind of weapon that surprised them, underwater. And you can only imagine the rest. It didn't bear out any more information, except that it's the largest, oldest freshwater lake. And I know the Russian military do some things there, but it isn't a place that you're allowed to go without specific permission. So maybe there is something there, and maybe the government knows now, of course, and maybe a treaty has been put there that says, look, we're not going to really do all those things that we were doing before. Just be cool, right? We're not going to come in there and go looking for you.
Yeah, maybe. It's possible. And I think there are a lot of disagreements in place on the planet with these different factions. Yeah, look, absolutely. No, but that it's true, though. I mean, there are a lot of no-go areas. The moon, for us, has been, for the longest time, a no-go area, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were told, I guarantee you, that we were told not to go back to the moon. And I think we were also told not to attempt anything in the vicinity of Mars either.
Mm-hmm.
We've sent a lot of probes to Mars, a lot of spacecraft unmanned, and very few actually made it to the surface. I think it's a handful of craft that actually Viking, of course, one of them, because they had malfunctions, they were destroyed. Who knows, right? But something is clearly not too keen on us being there.
Have you seen the big shadow, Meki, that was taken as a photograph of one of the landers? It was the spacecraft approaching Mars, and there was a massive shadow that didn't match anything. Like, it must have been a massive ship, like one of those ships that seem to go into the sun's corona.
How weird is that?
I know, right? And even Buzz Aldrin speaks of Mars in a way that, well, maybe he does know something.
Yeah. Look, the astronauts that were part of the initial American and even the Russian space programs back in the 50s and 60s, I think they had a lot of insight, and they wouldn't tell you if they were told, because these are military people. You have to understand that everybody says, "Oh, you can't keep
public agency."
Yeah, you can't keep a secret, people say. You can, if you've got the right people involved. If you've got someone that came up, through a military career, they know how to take orders and they know how to shut up, right? They just do. But yeah, no, I think you make a good point, Dave. I think they do know. This brings us to other interesting areas. So Lake Baikal is interesting. Of course, there's a couple of other areas as well that we're going to mention to you here. One is the Bermuda Triangle. You go, the Bermuda Triangle, it's so passé. Well, no, it's not. It's not, because I've got all the books you can possibly... This is how I really got into this ancient civilizations and the Bermuda Triangle. That's how I got interested in these topics when I was like 8-9 years old. And no one has debunked the Bermuda Triangle for me yet. So I'll mention it, and you can hate it or you can love it. UFO and USO sightings are so common in some areas related to the water that some ship captains even intentionally divert their boats from sailing through certain areas. Where you have a lot of UFO and USO sightings, there are often weird things that happen as well. The Bermuda Triangle is off the east coast of the USA. It's not really a triangle, it's more like a trapezoid. And there are frequent UFO sightings. There may be a big UFO base or USO base underneath the Bermuda Triangle, which would account for some of those strange happenings. A ship sails over there and all the people on the ship disappear. We've all heard of the Marie Celeste, for example, right? Which actually had 2 or 3 crews disappear off it. Ghost ship stories are often, are quite frequent there. Something comes by, it takes all the people off. And if you wanted to go study people, a bunch of people on the ship, and would make a great population to take, because it would be, a fairly reasonable cross section. Well, it would be. If you wanted
I'm laughing because I so get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're of course much more advanced than we are. So they leave the ship, take the people, and no one's any wiser. Having said that, a lot of times when there are strange events that are reported in the triangle, both by planes and by ships, it's talking about a glowing mist, sometimes greenish, sometimes just very bright. Other times they talk about instruments malfunctions, like none of the instruments work. Up is down, the horizon no longer is visible. So a lot of strange things happen in the triangle, or have happened in the past. Now, there are certain areas that are like that are strange phenomena, prone areas on land as well. And I think that the Park phenomenon is related to it, Dave. Anywhere where it is either ocean territory or really forested, like deep natural territory, I believe these activities could go on. And that's where, if I were in inner Earth civilization, that's where I would come up. Not in the population centers. That's stupid, right? I would come up, enjoy the sunshine wherever there weren't any people. And if some campers, some hapless campers came upon me, well, so be it. And the ones that did make it back, remember the campers, they were quite confused. Didn't really know what had happened to them, so their mind had been altered with. Anyway, in certain areas of the planet, UFO and UFO sightings are so common that people avoid going in there. And one of those is the Bermuda Triangle. But there's another one, Dave.
There is, and it happens to be almost on the other side of the planet.
Yep.
The Dragon's Triangle, or the Red Triangle, depending on your perspective. It is not just the Bermuda Triangle, though, on the opposite side of the Earth, in about the same spot. Off the coast of China and Japan, there is a Dragon's Triangle that over there has many of the same properties as the Bermuda Triangle. Disappearing ghost ships and planes that mysteriously go missing. I suppose that's the same as disappearing, isn't it? Do you remember recently there was a plane near that area in Malaysia that just went missing? I think they're referring to MH370. Now, the news stories had a lot of fun with it. They didn't know quite what to say because they didn't want to sit there and say something like a UFO thing happened. Although, you know what? That is not officially off the table, according to airplane crash investigation staff. It's still a valid thing because they can't prove anything yet. Here's what happened. The plane was flying and it disappeared off radar. It just vanished. It didn't go down and crash or anything that they could see. Whatever its altitude was, there was no obvious problem. It just completely vanished. Now, don't let that be confused with the telemetry information and that southern Indian Ocean thing that you hear the media talking about, because that isn't where the telemetry said the plane was. That was just a guesstimation. And I think maybe to give some closure to those people who were affected negatively by it. Now, sure, there could have been some mechanical failure, and that could happen some of the time, but how many times where things like that happen is there going on that we miss? How many times does it happen and how many times were things like that happen is something going on that we miss? That's what I meant to say. Even of 99% of things like that are truly just a mechanical failure or something weird. Now, would you think it was a normal routine mechanical failure, it wouldn't have been so newsworthy. Often these weird things do get noticed, do get reported on the news, and they are often conveniently labelled, oh well, we don't know what happened there, it might have been, or just been a mechanical failure or something, like the 737s. Yeah, they started crashing, worked out what it was, the computer was fighting the pilots and putting it into what it thought was a stall and trying to correct for it, actually causing more of a stall. But in this case, the plane just disappeared. And these things are actually very common. Now, it doesn't have to be anything sinister involving UFOs, though. It may have been a natural Earth phenomenon. UFOs and USOs seem to understand the natural things that happen on Earth, like these energy vortexes that seem to appear out of nowhere. Now, if you're a Star Trek fan, these are just anomalies. They're just things that are out there. They're natural. They happen. We just don't have a way of measuring where they're going to be and when they're going to be and take advantage of them. If we happenstance into one of them by accident and something happens to them, well, you know what? They're going to be somewhere else, according to Star Trek lore.
Yep.
Well, I think that kind of Star Trek lore is based on this. I think these events happen. Meki,
what
else is involved?
Look, we've just mentioned energy vortexes, right? And this is really the vortex, right, or the toroidal structure is, in my opinion, the underlying structure of the universe, because everything moves in circles, but it doesn't just move in circles or in a circular or globular fashion. It moves in a spiral-like fashion. So I think a vortex probably describes our particular universe best if you look at it over a time delays, kind of lens. Anyway, so but what about time travel vortexes, right? Or what about time travel possible in sky vortex? There are cases. There are cases like this. There's a pilot flying a plane, just a regular guy, like not a professional pilot with his own plane. He was flying from Haiti to Miami, or some such, and it was a several-hour journey. And he said a vortex appeared in the sky. A vortex, like a whirlpool. You might be able to picture that way. It looks a bit like a tornado. One of those vortexes appeared in the sky, according to this pilot. The vortex appeared in the sky, and he flew his plane into it. He couldn't help it. It appeared right in front of him, and sucked him into it. He said that he didn't notice anything. He just kind of came straight out of it. What he did notice is that he made an impossible fast trip to Miami. Now, this is a pilot, he had plenty of experience and so forth, and he said, according to my fuel, the flight that he made was actually impossible. Mm-hmm. He had just got enough fuel for the trip because he knew exactly how much fuel he needed, and he said, according to his fuel, that he had made an impossible trip, that somehow the voice had sped him up in time by about an hour, and that he had about an hour's worth of fuel left when he got to Miami. Okay? Which was impossible. There's no way that could have happened in a normal flight, right? He flew into the vortex, so apparently he time traveled or somehow skipped that intervening distance, to travel directly to where he was going. Okay. And, he couldn't have been artificially accelerated because a regular plane might not have been able to withstand those acceleration G-forces, correct, I imagine. Mm-hmm. Now imagine if you knew how that worked. And you could intentionally set your spacecraft up to work in line with what naturally occurs on Earth. The fact is we don't understand anything about this planet. Now, this is what Dave just mentioned. These are naturally occurring phenomena, potentially. And another civilization, more advanced than ours, maybe older than ours, understands how these things work. It's like, how can I put this? Tide. Let's think about, or even a fjord in a river. You see a river, right? And you want to go across the other side, but you don't know where. It looks deep. But if you know the river, if you've lived next to the river all your life, you know that some places in the river, it's really shallow, and you can just walk across. It's called a fjord, like a crossing, and you just make your way across there. Now, this could be something like that, but because we don't know the river, right, we can't do it. Up in Germany, in the north of Germany, there's these islands. They're far out in the Northern Sea. And you have to take a ferry to get to them. But when it's low tide, you can walk to them because the water retreats so much that you can actually walk across the sea floor and make it to the island. Well, almost dry-footed. I mean, it's still muddy and all that, but you can actually walk across and do that. So what if there are other phenomena like this on this planet, like energy vortexes or strange rips in space-time, whatever it might be, that occur once in a while and let you move in space, that you move in time. Yeah. But there are also missing planes.
Yeah, there are.
Dave, right?
Yeah, well, look, just before I start with this, I want to say that it may be the lintel at the Abydos Temple recorded an event where one of these planes or boats came through the portal back into their time frame. And they just noted it down. They recorded it as a recording in history. Could you imagine, Mackie and I've seen some, I think there's an old TV show where suddenly the plane arrives in a time where they don't witness any technology from the air. There's no TV masts, there's no radio towers, their radio calls fall on deaf ears because there's no technology, right? They don't have airfields. They have to try and find some place to land where the population doesn't exist yet, right? So I can only imagine that if there was a time vortex that not only can you go forward, but you can go back, and maybe you can go back significantly back in time. So this accounts for weird missing planes. These vortexes for flying things have led to a lot of weird missing planes. In World War II times, the Air Force was doing some test flights, and they sent out some flights off the coast of Florida towards the Bermuda Triangle.
Actually, it was but 1947, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 1947 it was. All of the bombers mysteriously went missing. Now, these are Air Force pilots. These aren't people fooling around playing a joke. They are not, casual pilots who own their own planes. These are people training to go to war, and all of the planes in the whole flight went missing, all at once. I don't know if they flew into a vortex or what happened, so don't accuse me of knowing anything about this. We just know that they went missing. They did all go missing. The Air Force wanted to know what happened, and how did all of their planes at once go missing? How did it all happen? They didn't crash into each other because there was no wreckage. They didn't all have mechanical failure at exactly the same time. No one said anything on the radio. They all just instantly went missing. Guess what? They sent another group of flights out to take a look. All those planes went missing too. So the vortex was still open. Yeah, I think it is Flight 19, by the way.
It is Flight 19, yeah.
There are some weird things that happened on this planet, often related to UFOs. If they are doing something that they want to keep private, then you will be going missing if you wander into it. I'm not sure that statement is entirely true. Look, if we happen into their technology or into a natural phenomena, all bets are off. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and good luck with that. I know that I've heard radio transcripts being reenacted where they say all of my gauges are misbehaving. I don't know, like you said in the brief, I don't know, up from down, my artificial horizon isn't working, and they've got to use dead reckoning. Now, dead reckoning was a thing before we started using, flight telemetry, right? You could look out the window and say, I know where I am, I'm guessing, I'm going to keep flying in this direction with a crosswind. Because in those days you had rudders that you used to correct a crosswind. So you could sort of do your estimates. It's no different than looking at your fuel gauge and going, I think I'll make it to the next fuel station. Yeah? See, unfortunately, I know that they've sent ships out to look for them and no one could find anything. And even since, they've not found them in all of this time. Now, these are planes without, transponders, right? Granted. And they did look in places that, were seemingly consistent with the lone fellow in his own plane, having shot further than normal and maybe taken a left when they shouldn't have taken a left to try and get back over land again. But in fact, as the debunkers say, they just ended up further out to sea and then ran out of fuel. So if they did, where are the planes? Right? So the debunker thing sounds great until you ask the further question, well, where are they then? Let's have a look. Can you find them? And they've never found any of those planes. They found planes similar to them, but never any of Flight 19. And neither have they found MH370 for that matter. But Mackie, look, the next topic is great, and it brings us back to my old favourite.
Yeah, they're flying a dragon to heaven with angels, right? So this the UFO phenomenon is a lot older, but let's just see what this talks about here, and then I'll give you some concrete examples. There are UFO reports in the mountains of the exact same kind of thing. UFOs flying around the mountain, everyone up there goes missing. Now, maybe they go on a trip to see some other planet, right? There are lots of reports, especially from ancient times, where people go into a dragon or a chariot or some such, who then go into heaven with an angel and who go out to see the stars, and they see Earth from space. Ezekiel comes to mind as the key one. Ezekiel actually went and never came back.
Oh,
Okay,
wheels
so Ezekiel
within wheels.
Wheels within wheels. He went a number of times, and and the last time he went, he didn't come back So he conceivably could still be out there. But Muhammad, believe it or not, also was meant to have been taken up to heaven. And that's why Jerusalem is the third holiest site of Islam, because it was meant to have happened in Jerusalem. Other reports, of course, in ancient times of flying discs, flying shields, people being taken up to the heavens, and describing what the earth looks like from a high vantage point. The country looks like porridge, and the lakes and seas like puddles of water.
Flatlands, Becky.
Yeah, I know, right? Is this proof positive? No, it's not proof positive, but it certainly is interesting that the same phenomena has been with us for thousands and thousands of years, with similar craft yet again. Okay, now that's really interesting, because it means that the civilization that is here with us hasn't really advanced much over the last few thousand years. So it means they've reached a certain level of development, I guess.
Technical development.
Technical development, and that's just that. Now, interestingly, they also described the curvature of Earth. This was at a time when people believed the Earth was flat, right? So how could that have happened? How is it possible to be taken up unless it is with advanced craft, advanced civilization within the Earth? You would think.
You know what comes to mind? That ridiculous statement of extraordinary.
Yeah, you
know what I'm saying? It just means normal evidence is required to prove something that seems...
So,
go on.
Yeah, so what Dave is saying, no matter how outrageous your claim is, or how unprecedented, it requires the exact same amount of proof as any other claim. So if you make an extraordinary claim, right, at anything, you don't require extraordinary evidence. You just require the run-of-the-mill regular evidence that every other claim requires, because the truth is the truth. So you don't need extraordinary. I don't understand. I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even know what that means, Dave. What does extraordinary evidence constitute? I don't know. It's a mystery to me. It's a nonsensical statement. It sounds good though as a soundbite. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. No, they do not. They require the exact same evidence as any other claim.
But Mackie, curvature of the Earth, being able to see it and describe it in such a way, that is perfect evidence to me.
Yeah.
It's still the evidence, right? It means it happened, despite our want for it not to be real.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's odd.
Well, the want of the time for it not to be real, right? Really, that's what we're talking about. It's got to be put into context.
Absolutely. Which brings us to a phenomenon which I struggle with. I really struggle with it a lot, Dave. And we've discussed this many times, and it's cow mutilations.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you go on and do that and keep doing it, right? Do you want to go ahead?
Well, hunting whales for scientific research?
Yeah, no, right?
Well, there's a very similar thing going on where people are... an intelligence is mutilating cattle, and they're found on their left side, and there's no blood, and there's no footprints up to them. I can do this without the text, right? so
I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? Farmers hear nothing, discover one of their cows deceased with no blood that has soaked into the soil, no evidence of tampering, no tire tracks. Cows weigh a lot. Like, I'm not making this up, right? They could be a ton of cow.
Yeah.
Easy. 800 kilos. It's enough to, you could be trapped under one if it fell on you. But the cows themselves don't have any blood in them, are deceased with, I'm not going to say circular type cuts, but cuts with edges that are precision cards, and precision done in such a way that each one of the mutilations is extremely similar. They might take the eyelids away from the eye, or including the eye, around the side of the mouth where the lips, where the rear jaw is. But they're dead. They're found dead. They don't look like they were deceased beforehand. They have no blood in them, and there's no trace of everything, as though they were lifted into the sky, operated on, and then slowly lowered down on their left side into an adjacent field, or not the same place that they were taken from. That's the story. You know, and look, it is... no one's filmed it happening. They've only found the evidence post-event. And there's some people, some big-name people researching this. And we've actually had one of the people on who refused to label it UFOs, but stayed within the bounds of what it actually is. Now, I have a great respect for someone who doesn't want to label something or doesn't want to stamp it unless they've actually got proof that that's happening. Fine. And, you know, none the twain shall meet, you know. So the UFO people won't talk to the Bigfoot people, and the UFO people won't talk to the cow mutilation people. They don't want them to be connected because then that could, detract from their research. Fine. Let's just know that it's a thing. It is a thing, and it happens more often than you would be, care to want to know. But look, if you're a skeptic, cow mutilations might push you over the edge, though. You might become a believer in them, I suppose, right? They're so weird. You can picture a psycho cutting up a cow, but can you picture this happening all around the world in the same manner with the same outcome?
It's a serial killer community of cows. It's Dexter. It's the Dexter of Cowland.
Or Blue Cow if you watch the kids shows.
Blue Cow.
I like Blue Cow. It's always good. She catches a bus and goes on daily adventures. Which I'm surprised the children don't just get on a bus and go somewhere, especially with their Opal card. Now, look, they happen a lot. There's a high frequency of them. There are sometimes UFO sightings near the cow mutilations, and they're not the mutilated cow isn't discovered for some time after, or it's witnessed on the other side of a mountain, or sometimes there's abductions that happen on the other side of a mountain and the UFO is seen on the other side. We're only being able to join this information together makes sense of it. And that's tough. It really is tough. Mecky, what else do we have?
Well, I want to stay with the cows just for a second.
Yeah, right.
It's just, okay, look, it's like a crop circle as well. So cow mutilations happen. Crop circles exist. Crop circles are in two categories: one that are the real ones, the other ones that are fake. There are distinct differences between the fake ones and the real ones, and people don't go into the detail. But with these things, you have to go into the detail, and this is important. Okay, so why would any extraterrestrial entity undertake cow dissections? That's what we're talking about. They're not really mutilations, they're dissections, because I've seen these pictures. These are the bone is exposed in a very clinical fashion. The cuts are like laser cuts, right? This is not some kind of wild animal that went to town on the cow at all, right? This is some other thing altogether, and they're looking. It's like the cow is being examined, and no one makes any qualms about it. They don't burn the cow afterwards, like to hide what they've done. They don't try to bury the cow or drop. And you think dropping it in the ocean would be easy enough to do, right? No. We're gonna go to town on the cow and scores or even hundreds of cows in one night, and do what we do. And sometimes things are taken or missing, right? Organs or tongue. Sometimes just cut off. And you have to ask yourself, why on earth would that happen? It's one of the strangest things, just like crop circles, right? The real ones.
It's a delicacy, Mickey.
Maybe it is, Dave. Don't know. But if you take it back a little bit further, then, and I'm taking this back now to the start of civilization, when agriculture and horticulture and all those wonderful things came along, as well as domesticated animals, we were taught most of these things. At least that's what the legends tell us. And cows and so forth, and pigs, were the animals of choice. In fact, the cow is the animal of choice globally. to be a domesticated animal. You know? It's got milk, it's got meat, it's got all kinds of things. And maybe that whoever taught us is still trying to keep a quality control on it. Maybe they're still testing. Maybe they're still seeing what happens to their cows on the surface of the planet. You know, how do they react to radiation? What's going on? It's unknowable to me at this point. All I know is it doesn't make any sense. Why only cows? Why not pigs? Why not rabbits? Why not kangaroos or llamas, for that matter? There's literally
you don't find any of those. Yeah,
none. The cows are the only domesticated at large anyway that have been dissected and mutilated in this fashion. None of the other animals. Zero I've ever heard of.
and look, we're not talking about a vivisection either, where they cut the creature in half to examine it medically. No, it's specific portions of the creature.
Yeah, and again, like they've said, no blood around it, no trampled ground, nothing, just a cow. Like it was dropped from this. No, not dropped because there's no actual damage from the dropping. Yeah, just placed is a good word. Thank you. It makes no sense. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm not arrogant enough to want to present a solution here or an answer because I just don't know. It makes no sense to me. And I know we're running out of time here as well. Next week we're going to talk about a few more things, probably be able to wrap it up as well. There's a special case we want to discuss with you, which is the Nimitz case, which I find fascinating, so that's going to come up next week. But I have to say to you, Dave, some of these things just don't make any... I mean, they're there, they are, but they make no sense. It's like a whole bunch of stuff we discuss in our shows here, they just don't make any sense. Why would you have a 1,000-ton stone block? Makes no sense, but there it is. Why would you keep mutilating, dissecting cows? Doesn't make any sense, but guess what? There it is. Right? Why crop circles? I mean, forget the fake ones, but the real ones. What's the point of that? I don't get it. There's something at play here which just doesn't make any sense to us right now because we don't know enough. And that's why your quote is so important that you gave us earlier. To know is to know that you know nothing. That is the meaning of true knowledge. To be open to new ideas and new experiences and new knowledge. That is our purpose. That is what we must do.
I think you're right, Mickey. This whole thing ties into there being a cohabitation on a planet. At least a single or multiple cohabitation.
Yeah.
For there to be this kind of and this level of interest.
I agree. I mean, it has to be. I mean, because it keeps going. It has been going for thousands and thousands of years, right? It has been going for a long time. It is astounding, It's easy. It's and Albert in the chat room has been giving us some great comments. Gerber, hi by the way. Albert has been giving us some really great comments, and he says if there was truly a civilization or technology, on the Earth that is so advanced, it'd be easy to hide from us and control us. In fact, for the past few thousand years and even longer. And you're right, Albert. That's exactly the point, right? And if you look at the history of the world and our ancient sources, especially from Sumer and Babylon, the Anunnaki and so forth, but not just there, you can see that it's exactly. Oh, okay, right. Come back, donate.
Come back and donate, and stay tuned for Jer Bear's roundtable. He loves your company. Take care, everyone. See you next week.